Most people think of the Amish when they picture America's most closed-off communities. But in Brooklyn, New York, certain Hasidic Jewish neighborhoods may be even more insular, with their own language, arranged marriages, and strict limits on outside contact, all in the middle of one of the world's largest cities. So why do some members risk everything to leave? And what happens when the only world you've ever known shuts you out completely? To understand these choices, we must look to 18th century Eastern Europe, where Hasidic Judaism first emerged. This was not a separate religion, but a spiritual movement arising within Orthodox Judaism, guided by the teachings of Israel ben Eliezer, known as the Baal Shem Tov. He emphasized joy, emotional prayer, and divine presence in daily life. While the Holocaust later devastated these European communities, surviving dynasties relocated to New York. In neighborhoods like Brooklyn, families reconstructed their destroyed worlds, establishing a highly structured, self-contained society designed to preserve their heritage against the pressures of the modern world. Modern Hasidic life is not a single uniform experience. Instead, it is divided into distinct dynasties, such as the Satmar, Chabad-Lubavitch, Bobov, and Vizhnitz, each practicing its own customs and levels of strictness. At the head of each dynasty is the Rebbe, a hereditary spiritual leader who serves as the absolute communal authority. In many of these neighborhoods, Yiddish remains the primary language of daily life, spoken at home, in classrooms, and in local shops. This structure creates highly self-contained worlds, governed not by a single centralized body but by individual dynastic courts. This communal boundary is maintained from early childhood through a highly structured, gender-segregated school system. Boys and girls attend separate schools from a young age, following fundamentally different curricula. In the boys' track, the focus is almost entirely on intensive Talmudic study, often conducted in Yiddish, with minimal time allocated for secular subjects. Girls receive a curriculum centered on practical skills, Jewish law, and basic literacy, often resulting in slightly more exposure to secular English and math. This distinct focus has drawn intense regulatory scrutiny. Between 2015 and 2025, the New York State Education Department conducted regular audits of ultra-Orthodox yeshivas, leading to landmark legal challenges over the state's substantial equivalence standard. Critics and parental advocacy groups have filed lawsuits alleging that some of the strictest schools fail to provide adequate instruction in core subjects like math and English. In response, yeshiva defenders and coalitions argue that state intervention threatens their religious freedom and educational self-determination, leaving the balance between communal autonomy and state oversight unresolved. In many Hasidic communities, daily life is structured by a system of social boundaries designed to preserve historical heritage. For young adults, major life decisions are guided early on. Marriage is typically arranged through a professional matchmaker, known as a shadchan, who evaluates family background and religious devotion. In highly traditional groups like the Satmar, these unions occur young, typically between the ages of 16 and 20 for women, and 18 to 22 for men. This protective envelope extends to the digital world. To limit outside influences, rabbinical councils in the most observant neighborhoods restrict internet and smartphone use, sometimes mandating modified kosher devices or complete bans. Together, these marriage and media practices establish a closed ecosystem, anchoring individuals to the community before they ever reach adulthood. Deciding to leave a Hasidic community is rarely triggered by a single dramatic event. Instead, sociological studies point to a cumulative, systemic pattern of lived pressures that build over years. While the community's protective boundaries offer strong social cohesion for those who conform, they also create significant barriers for those whose beliefs or personal identities begin to diverge from communal norms. One of the primary structural challenges documented among those who exit is the long-term impact of limited secular preparation. Because the educational focus in many traditional boys' yeshivas is heavily weighted toward religious studies, individuals often transition into adulthood with minimal training in standard math, English, or science. While this curriculum preserves historical heritage, it leaves departing members with a significant educational deficit. Without professional credentials, high school equivalency certificates, or secular resumes, securing employment outside the community's internal network becomes exceptionally difficult, often resulting in immediate economic insecurity. Alongside these economic hurdles, departure frequently follows serious crises of faith. When exposure to external ideas, often accessed through covert internet use or encounters outside the neighborhood, provokes questions about theological doctrines or the absolute authority of a dynasty's rebbe, the resulting cognitive dissonance can be overwhelming. For many, the inability to engage in open critical inquiry inside their families or congregations turns an intellectual doubt into existential isolation. These tensions are often felt most acutely by younger people and women, who face particularly intense autonomy pressures. Within many Hasidic communities, the trajectory of life is highly structured, and major personal milestones, ranging from career choices to family planning and the education of children, are closely monitored and managed by communal expectations. For young adults, the pressure to conform to traditional gender roles can feel highly restrictive. Women, in particular, face distinct limitations, as social norms typically center on domestic life and early childbearing, leaving few sanctioned pathways for higher education or independent careers. When the desire for personal self-determination clashes with these rigid expectations, the cumulative weight of social conformity often transforms from a supportive envelope into an unsustainable constraint. This tension is not a sudden rupture, but a gradual realization that the life laid out for them does not fit who they are, prompting a quiet but steady stream of departures. Leaving a Hasidic community often results in an immediate and painful separation from everything a person has ever known. In highly traditional enclaves, particularly within the Satmar and Vizhnitz dynasties, departure is frequently met with systematic social avoidance. Family members and childhood friends may cut off all communication, sometimes treating the departing individual as though they no longer exist. In certain families, this estrangement is formalized through mourning rituals traditionally reserved for the deceased. This severing of ties extends to the practical safety nets that define daily neighborhood life. A person who leaves immediately forfeits access to community-run housing, mutual financial assistance, and shared childcare. For parents, the division can lead to intense custody disputes in secular courts, occasionally resulting in the loss of contact with their children. The emotional weight of this transition unfolds in profound isolation. Those who step outside must build an entirely new social structure from scratch, balancing the pursuit of personal autonomy against the permanent loss of their primary support network. Without the internal community network, the practical task of surviving in mainstream society begins immediately. Daily life requires securing housing, finding work, and managing unfamiliar civic systems. For those raised speaking primarily Yiddish, limited English proficiency complicates these basic transactions. Academic gaps also present a steep hurdle. Standardized testing data shows GED pass rates among former Satmar and Vizhnitz yeshiva students hover between 30 and 40%, far below the citywide public school average of 68%. To address these barriers, the New York nonprofit Footsteps, founded in 2003, offers structured assistance. The organization provides educational scholarships, remedial tutoring, job placement, and psychological counseling. They also supply legal aid for individuals facing custody disputes or establishing legal identities. This assistance treats departure as a gradual, multi-year transition. Through these structured resources, former members learn to manage a secular environment, turning a challenging exit into a sustainable restart across work, family, and daily life. For those who step across these invisible borders, the journey is more than a change of faith. It is a complete reconstruction of self. As support networks expand, the challenge of bridging these two adjacent worlds remains. What are your thoughts on this transition? Share them below.